Hello class 9 students of DPS Surat. This is a video of Science Chapter 1 Matter in Our Surroundings Part 2. By the end of this video, students will be able to understand various states of matter. They will be able to define each state of matter. Students will also be able to differentiate between each state of matter depending upon their properties. We already know that anything or everything around yourself which has some mass and which occupy space or volume is called matter. Matter can be classified into various states. These states of matter could be solid, liquid, gas, plasma and Bose-Einstein condensate. Each state of matter will have different properties. Let us now study each state of matter depending upon their properties. The first state of matter is the solid state. Many things around yourself you can find are in solid state of matter. Like for example, fan, tube lights, chair, table, washing machine, television, etc. are solid state of matter. This solid state have certain properties. The first property of any matter in solid state is that the solids have definite shape and fixed volume. We know that any matter is made up of particles. In solid, these particles are very close to each other. And as these particles are very close to each other, the interparticle space in solid is very less. Or you can say that the interparticle space in solid is least as compared to other states of matter. Also, from this you can say that as these particles are very close to each other, the force of attraction between the particles of solid is maximum. One more property of solid state of matter is that the particles of solid state of matter have minimum kinetic energy. Why? The reason is as the particles of solid are very close to each other, these particles do not find enough space to move around. And as they do not have enough space to move, they possess minimum kinetic energy. The particles of solid just vibrate at their mean position. Also, the particles of solid are very close to each other, hence solids cannot be compressed easily. One more property of particles of solid is, or one more property of the matter in solid state is that they have least rate of diffusion. Now what is diffusion? Diffusion is intermixing of particles of one matter with the particles of another matter. And why this diffusion rate is minimum in solid? It is minimum because the particles of solid are very close to each other. And as these particles are very close to each other, the particles of another matter do not get intermixed with the particles of solid easily. And hence the rate of diffusion in solid is least. The second state of matter is the liquid state. Let us now study the properties of liquid. Liquids do not have fixed shape, but they do have fixed volume. For example, if I have 100 ml of water in beaker, I transfer this 100 ml of water into a glass. The volume of water will remain same, but water will take the shape of the glass in which I have poured it. This means that for liquid, the volume will remain the same, but it will change the shape and take the shape of the container in which we have poured it into. The particles of liquid have interparticle space more as compared to those of solids. This is because the particles of liquid are far away from each other as compared to those of solids. As these particles are far away from each other, they do have force of attraction between them. But this force of attraction between the particles of any liquid will be less as compared to those of solids. Also, from this we can say that as these liquids, the particles are away from each other, they possess kinetic energy. This kinetic energy is more as compared to that of solid. Even liquids cannot be compressed easily. So we can say that liquids are compressible, but only under certain conditions of temperature and pressure. In liquids, the particles are away from each other. This means they possess interparticle space, and as they possess interparticle space, the rate of diffusion in liquids is more as compared to those of solids. The third state of matter is the gaseous state. Let us now study the properties of gases. The first property of gases is that gases do not have fixed shape or volume. They take up the space of the container available to them. The particles of gases are far away from each other, and as these particles are far away from each other, we can say that they have maximum interparticle space. As they have maximum interparticle space means they will have minimum force of attraction. From this we can also say that they possess maximum kinetic energy. As the particles are very far away from each other, the gases can be compressed very easily as compared to other states of matter like solid or liquids. The last property is that the rate of diffusion of any gas is always more as compared to that of solids or liquids. In other words, we can say that the rate of diffusion of gases is maximum. The reason is, as the particles are far away from each other, the intermixing of particles become very, very easy. The fourth state of matter is plasma. Plasma is a mixture of free electrons and ions. Plasma occurs naturally in the stars, including the sun. Inside the stars, the temperature is so high that the atoms break up. Some of the electrons break away from the atoms, converting the rest of the atoms into electrically charged particles called ions. This mixture of free electrons and ions in a star is called plasma. The sun and the other stars glow because of the presence of plasma in them. Plasma can also be made on the earth by passing electricity through gases at very low pressure taken in a glass tube. The fluorescent tube and neon sign bulbs form plasma when they are switched on. These are some of the examples for plasma. Bose-Einstein condensate is the fifth state of matter. Satyendranath Bose and Albert Einstein predicted about this state of matter. That's why it got its name as Bose-Einstein condensate. Plasma and Bose-Einstein condensate have opposite characters. Plasma is a super hot and super excited atom, while condensate has super cool and super unexcited atoms. Bose-Einstein condensate was obtained by cooling the vapor at super low temperature. Try to answer few questions now. The first question is, what happens when we light the incense stick in one corner of the room? The answer to this question is, the smell of the incense stick spreads throughout the room due to the process of diffusion. The next question is, why is it possible to compress sponge? And if we are able to compress sponge, is it solid? The answer to this question is, we can compress sponge because it has some pores. In these pores, the air is filled up. When we compress it, the air comes out of the pores and sponge changes its shape. But when we release the pressure, again the air gets filled up in the pores and sponge takes up the original shape. Yes, it is considered as solid. The third question is, why do liquids have higher rate of diffusion than solids? Now, diffusion means intermixing of particles with each other. Liquids have higher rate of diffusion than solids because in liquids the interparticle space is more as compared to that of solid, and hence the particles can intermix with each other easily. The next question is, why diffusion becomes faster on heating? The answer to this question is, on heating, the kinetic energy of the particles increases and the particles move faster. This speeds up the intermixing of particles and hence the diffusion becomes faster. The last question of the assignment is, we can easily move our hand in air, but to do the same through the solid block of wood, we need a karate expert. This is because air is the gaseous state of matter, whereas wood is solid state of matter. In air, the particles are away from each other, whereas in wood, the particles are very close to each other. Hence, we can move our hand easily in air, whereas in wood, we cannot do so.